All right, so listen, I really want you to sit down, take a seat, and listen to this. It could save someone's life that you know or love. It is no longer hiding in the shadows of seedy downtown alleyways. Heroin has a new home, bringing its highly addictive, oftentimes deadly power to the white picket tree-lined streets of suburbia. Here are just some facts for you, folks. The average age that kids start using heroin just before their 15th birthday, and most of them are white, and more of them prefer to shoot it up than taking it any other way. Why the increase here? It's cheaper than pills. Drug agents say the crackdown on oxycodone and other pain pills have made pills way more expensive for users, 20 to 80 bucks a pill. Heroin, way cheaper and more plentiful, and now way more popular. And two people who know that painfully well, John Roberts and Pam Anderson, both parents who separately lost their sons to overdoses of heroin. And Mr. Roberts, thank you for joining us. Ms. Anderson, thank you so much for joining us. We're going to start with you, Mr. Roberts. You're a retired Chicago police captain. You moved to the suburbs for a better life for you and for your family. And your son, Billy, fell into drugs. Tell us what happened.
Shortly after we moved, Billy had just finished, graduated from grade school and started in high school. And like a lot of kids in America, that's where they're going to be introduced to drugs and be tempted and to maybe drug experimentation. And unfortunately, Billy, making new friends in a new community, it seems like he got in with the wrong crowd. But by and large, Don, the drugs are out there. It's in a lot of communities. But I moved out to a beautiful suburb. I can see a farm from my back deck. This is a really nice area. And after 33 years in the streets of Chicago as a police officer, I never expected to find heroin. But why do I do what I do now? It's all over the counties, the collar counties of Chicago and many of our major cities.
And you know, and the reason I say that is because most people, when they say, oh, you think about drugs, you think about heroin, you either think about rock stars or inner city urban areas, and that's not the case anymore. Pam, I want you to tell me about your son Matthew. He started taking pills as a student at UGA, and then it went into heroin.
Yeah, he started between his sophomore and junior year with some orally taking pills, and then moved to snorting, and then because it doesn't give you the same high, you have to keep jacking it up and jacking it up, and then he moved into the intravenous, and that's when we found out about it and pulled him out of school.
And did you hear when I said most kids start to take, the kids who do start to take heroin before their 15th birthday, because it's so easily accessible? They can get that faster than they can get a pack of cigarettes.
Yes, they can. Yeah. It's everywhere. And in the college campuses, what they're doing with it is it's like they're just passing bowls of pills, and the pushers, if I can use that word,
of course,
they give it out for free to get somebody hooked. And then they start with a lower price on the pills and jack it up as they're more addicted.
Yeah, and many people will start, Mr. Roberts, with starting to take oxycodone or take pills, and it goes from prescription pills because the prescription pills become too expensive for them, and so they go to heroin because heroin is cheaper, and then they start shooting it. And of course, once you start to use heroin, it's not just addictive, you don't want that high, your body needs that, and so they're hooked, and they're going to have an issue for the rest of their lives. And at the beginning of this show, as we said, either you're going to end up dead or in jail most times.
It's true. The problem is that there's a lot of drugs out there. Not all of them are gay. In fact, I don't believe so much in the gateway theory, but I do believe one gateway drug is the painkiller, prescription painkillers. They're opiate-based drugs. Kids can get those in most of the medicine cabinets in our country. Yeah. Mom and Dad, I mean, you get a prescription, you don't use them all, you leave them there in case you need them. Our kids are going in there and getting them, and you're exactly correct. They go out and they want more, they try it again, but they're already building a dependency and a tolerance for the opiate-based drug. Yeah. But when they find that they can use heroin, and it's much cheaper, $10 a bag. Here in Chicago, a suburban kid can drive into the west side of the city of Chicago and buy a bag of heroin for $10, and their preferred customers, when they see them coming, they will offer them, it's called a jab. A jab is 10 bags for $100, and they give them a baker's dozen to bring them back. They'll give them 12 to 13 bags for $100, and then that goes back out to the suburbs. So that's one of the reasons why this epidemic is spreading through all of our collar counties and
Go ahead,
Is it
Pam.
really? How?
It's even cheaper here in Atlanta. I've heard as low as $7 a bag.
Yeah. There's a place here that I've been reading called The Bluffs, where there's even a documentary and then a number of documentaries that have been written about the Bluffs where the kids from the suburbs go into the Bluffs and they buy these bags. And they know when they see these young, affluent looking kids, white kids coming in, they know what they're there for.
And they drive in their cars and...
Telltale signs?
Telltale signs are things like they start missing their appointments, they cancel things, they're sleeping a lot. When they're beginning to come down from the high, they seem like they have a cold. They get the feverish, lots of sweating, very cranky, and raspy.
Right.
They get real raspy because of the heroin affects the respiratory system.
I was talking, and this is, just little signs. I was talking to a friend last night and asking him about it, a friend who's another producer here, and he said, I thought maybe one of my friends might be addicted because heroin addicts do a clicking thing with their jaw. Have you ever heard, you guys ever heard of that?
My son didn't do that, but I've heard people talk about they do this thing with their head.
Yeah, okay. So I want to talk about how to help. Of course, Officer Roberts, having the talk with your kids, that's important. And you have to be proactive about it. I want you to tell me about that, and I also want you to tell me about your organization called Hero, because you've dedicated your life now that you've retired to helping kids fight these demons and fight drugs.
And, the parents have to talk to their children, and we do. I was a very good parent. But you know what? We have to know how to do that. It's like having the sex education talk. Parents rue the day we have to do it, but at the same time, we know we have to. Well, and parents can learn how to do that. Here in Chicago, I work with an organization called the Robert Crown Center for Health Education, and they're famous for, for over 50 years, they've been teaching kids sex education. I'm working with them now on this battle. But, one of the things we're trying to do is we are going to develop a curriculum for the kids, but also for the faculty, administrators of the schools, and we're going to be pilot testing it this fall. But most importantly, as importantly, we're going to be teaching the parents how to talk to their kids about the dangers of the drugs that are out there in our society today.
And Mr. Roberts, if you can do me a favor, I know you have a hat for show your hat and tell me how your organization, if there's a website we'd like our viewers to...
Don, I really appreciate this. I mean, I will devote the rest of my days until I'm with Billy to fighting for HERO, Heroin Epidemic Relief Organization. But our rallying cry, as the name implies, is be a hero. The only way that we're ever going to win this battle is for people. I mean, I'm just a dad, a grieving dad, but I'm finding ways to get out there and fight back and to do something about it. I'm fighting for drug education. I'm fighting for prevention. But HERO does that, and for everybody, and Don, like you, and for the woman who's sitting there with you who's not afraid to come out and talk about this, that's what this means. You're a hero. You're helping us fight back. And until and unless we start pushing back, we're never going to win this war on drugs.
We want to tell you that Matthew is 22 years old, Pam's son, Billy, just 19 years old when he died. Thank you very much, John. Thank you, Pam. You're very brave to come on.
Thank you.
All right.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. And
Thank you,
know what?
Dan. God bless.
You too as well. He could be your son or the boy next door, hooked on heroin, and you would never even suspect it. You're going to meet him next. Plus this. A song about drug addiction, very appropriate for our discussion tonight, especially when you take a look at this map. All of the states that you see in red, 32 of them, have seen increases in heroin-related patients between 1999 and 2009. And just this week, Houston police made their largest heroin bust ever. 17 kilos found stashed inside a car, unheard of in their parts. And part of the reason it's becoming so popular, it is cheap, way cheaper than pills, offering much of the same high to users at a fraction of the cost. So who would know that better? No one would know that better than Bill Pantrianakis. He started on pills. It got so expensive that he moved on. He switched to heroin. So Bill says he is clean now. He is sober and has been for 4 years. So congratulations on that. We hope you stay clean and sober. What caused you to pull yourself away from heroin?
To pull away from it?
Yeah.
No addict really wants to stay on. But at a certain point, your life gets to the point where it becomes so unmanageable, so terrible that you have to do something. And my life, like all addicts, got to that point.
Okay, so tell us about that. And as you talk to us about your story, when you said we have pictures of you sober and then pictures of you while you were using heroin, your parents knew that you were using drugs, but that didn't stop you. And again, you started like most people start. You started with a painkiller and you know, doing recreational drugs, and then you moved into this because it's cheaper.
Right, absolutely. You know, it started innocently enough with a little bit of marijuana. It seemed harmless at the time, moved on to pills, and then the addiction set in, and I wasn't even aware of it, and everyone else around me knew it was going on, but before I even did. And there was a lot of denial, there was a lot of delusion, and it took a very long time before I could finally admit that I had a problem, and that was when I could finally start asking for some help. So yeah, my parents knew, and they did their best to try to stop me, but there was nothing that was going to.
How'd you get it your first time?
I had a friend of mine, and we were on one of our, you know, normal nightly, you know, smoking runs, a little marijuana. And this one particular night, he had a little treat for me, and it was a pill of OxyContin, and I tried it, and I loved it. I didn't just like it. I loved it. And from that point on, I was asking for more and more until I was not only I was physically and mentally dependent on it.
And dependent on OxyContin. And when you couldn't, OxyContin became too expensive for you.
Yes. Yeah, at that point I started to, you know, I was pawning things, stealing from my parents, my sister. You know, everyone who cared about me, you know, I could have turned them into enemies. I was doing whatever I could to get money to pay for it, but and that wasn't enough. And so I decided to move on to heroin because I heard it was cheaper.
And it gave you the same high?
Absolutely, at a lower cost.
At a lower cost. How long did you use it?
About half the time that I did opiates was heroin. And yeah, it started out with snorting, and of course, to conserve my money, I moved on to shooting it.
Yeah. What do you say to kids who are watching or parents who are watching? Because you know, heroin is you know, it's been around for a long time, and there's been it's been used among suburban teens, mostly white kids, since the 90s. But what they're seeing now, so many people dying now, and the use of it has just increased over the last couple of years. What do you say to parents, and what do you say to people out there, anything that you want to say to them about using heroin or about heroin?
Well, to parents, I would say, you know your child, talk to your child, don't rely on schools to do it. Lots of parents think that they're just going to get taught in health class about drugs, and their kids know better. Look for the signs. Look for, if you think something is off with your kid, you know your child best, and you should confront them about it. And to kids out there, students, teens, whoever is in that range that's starting to use, I would tell them, you are the rule, not the exception. Before people start, they believe that they are the exception. They are going to be the ones that they're too smart to become addicted. They know about addiction, so that insulates them from becoming addicted. No. If you start this, you will end up in a bad place.
Hear that, kids? You'll end up in a bad place. Every day it's a struggle, right?
You know, at first it's a struggle. I mean, at this point, I put it behind me, and I'm doing very well. But for a very long time, it was a struggle. I mean, you don't get clean overnight.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Bill. And just real quick, thank you, and good luck to you. What's the name of your organization?
Thank you for having
again,
me.
Pam?
Matthews Fund.
Matthews Fund. And it's online. Is there Matthews?
Yes, beatingthedemonsofdrugs.com.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thanks to Bill, thanks to Pam, and to all my guests. Next,